In today's video, I'll be sharing with you a newly completed pair of socks, my works in progress, and a sheep and wool festival I'm excited to attend in October. And no, it's not Rhinebeck. So grab a cup of something cozy and let's dive in. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. This is a podcast primarily about knitting, though I do get up to other fiber-related topics from time to time. I am coming to you from a sweltering hot Henderson, Nevada, which is a town outside of Las Vegas, Nevada in the Southwest United States. We, as well as many others here in the Southwest and the West and many other places around the globe right now, are experiencing a heat wave. It is 114 degrees outside right now. It is torrid and uncomfortable, and we are just riding this thing out the very best that we can. Yet, despite all that, I still have my cup of tea with me today just to unwind because it has been quite hectic these last 2 days. If you watched my last episode, which I filmed while I was up in northern Nevada last week, you know that I was recently on a family vacation. We actually just arrived home on Friday. And then on Saturday, our air conditioner malfunctioned. We're not exactly sure what it was. I was thinking that I was not going to be able to film and upload today because we'd be sitting in a really hot house. We have family in town, so we went over and spent the night there at my parents' house here in Las Vegas. And we came back this morning, realized it was actually something relatively simple that we were able to fix. So thank the Lord that we have air conditioning now. Otherwise, it would be absolutely miserable. And all of that happening right after coming home from a vacation just is it's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you have two little ones as well, and they can get really uncomfortable. And it's just the whole thing. And so this cup of tea is actually helping me just kind of center myself and unwind and relax a little bit. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys today. I have some fun things to share with you, including a finished pair of socks. But before I get into any of that, I want to remind you that Fiber for the People, my hand-dyed yarn business, has a shop update this Saturday, July 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you would like to learn more about Fiber for the People and check out previous updates, you can head over to Instagram at fiber.for.the.people and learn more over there, and then head over to fiberforthepeople.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there, and that's where you will go to shop the update on Saturday. I also want to mention that there is a website associated with the channel here, which is woolneedleshands.com. If you head over there, you can shop really fun merch like the multi-craft jewel t-shirt I have here, lots of other fun things as well. I have some patterns for sale over there, and whenever I have a lot of show notes to include with an episode, I will leave show notes over there on the website, and you can access those show notes if you're watching this from a smart TV by scanning the QR code that pops up on your screen right now with your smartphone, and that will give you access to the show notes for today's video or whichever video you happen to be watching. But those show notes will most often be housed over there at woolneedleshands.com, as well as down below in the description box. While you're over there, you can sign up for the Wool Needles Hands newsletter and check out the Wool Needles Hands tip line if you'd like to provide me with some ideas for future midweek ramble videos that I upload every Wednesday. All right, enough of that. I want to go ahead and share with you my projects, starting with a newly finished pair of socks. I was working on these socks while I was up on vacation with my family in northern Nevada, but I started these socks quite a while ago. I started these one at a time. I now choose to knit my socks two at a time, but when I started these, I was knitting socks one at a time. I casted onto the first one here about a year and a half ago, and I'm just now completing them, and I'm so happy that they are finished. So there are my newly finished stripey socks. This yarn is from Nomadic yarns. That's one of my favorite stripey sock or self-striping sock yarn companies. I cannot remember right off the top of my head the name of this particular stripey colorway. I will pop it in the description box because I know I have it somewhere. But I really love this. I love Nomadic yarns. I love how beautiful the stripes come across on the fabric, and I love the color combinations that she uses. I think that it's just a really fantastic self-striping yarn. Now, these were knit pretty far apart, so there were certain things that I forgot. Well, certain things that I didn't take into consideration with the second one. For example, there's a video where I talk about not knowing for sure which needle size I used to knit the ribbing at the top. It's, I don't know, about an 8-month-old video. I'll link to it up here in the top of the video if you'd like to watch that one. But it's kind of my sock drama as it relates to figuring out needle sizes for the second sock, as it was so far apart from the first sock and I didn't take notes. if you're knitting socks one at a time, take notes, because if you happen to put the one sock down after you finish it and you don't pick up the second sock for, months, you're going to forget little things that you want to remember so that the socks, fit the same on your feet. And that's something I failed to do. But I happened to, I think, figure it out because they both seem to match. The fabric seems to match between the two of them, and everything seems just hunky-dory. So I'm really happy with these. It's definitely got my sock knitting mojo going again. I want to cast on another pair of socks 2 at a time. I actually have some yarn that I would like to cast on from Nomadic Yarns that is self-striping that I've been excited to cast on, which I want to show you. Hold on. Okay, actually I have a few options here that I would like to consider for casting on my next pair of socks. So pardon these really messy cakes. I caked them very loosely. I don't know what my problem was, but they're really ugly. But this, not the yarn is not ugly, the cakes are ugly, but the yarn is beautiful. These are the other cakes of yarn by Nomadic Yarns that I have for knitting socks 2 at a time. Like, what is it trying to focus on? It's right here. The action is here. Okay. Yeah, so there they are. This was one of her Christmas colorways, and it is gorgeous. I have it in 2 separate cakes because I will be knitting these 2 at a time, but that's one option. I also purchased a couple of sock sets from Little Lionhead Knits, which includes this little one right here. And I thought that this is just a lot of fun, these 3 colors together. So that could be cute. And then I also purchased this sock set as well. I don't know, I'm kind of feeling this. So I don't know. So I have some options. I also have some Fiber for the People yarn, pardon me, in this basket of scraps that I was thinking I was going to be destashing, and have actually started to, think twice about that. I had a full cake of yarn in here that I wanted to knit a pair of socks with. Hold on, it might be this other basket. All right, hold the phone. Yep, here it is. Okay, it's also kind of not the nicest looking cake, but it's a nice looking yarn. Okay, so this is another option for a pair of socks, but I would have to, again, cake it into 2 separate cakes. So this is a skein of yarn that includes a little bit of stellina, so there's a little bit of glitter in there. This was a one-of-a-kind colorway that I dyed. It was actually a mistake. I don't know. What happened with this is it just came out a little bit more murky and dark than I had intended, but I think it's really beautiful. Like, look at all those colors in there. They are just, they're lovely. And despite this cake, you can still kind of see them coming through. So I was thinking this would be fun for like a nice dark pair of socks, but I just don't know if I feel like knitting something right now with really dark yarn. So I'm trying to decide what I want to cast on next for my next pair of socks, which will be knit 2 at a time now that these ones are finished. And these ones, this is how much yarn I have left over after knitting these socks here. I don't know exactly how much this is, but you can kind of see that's a pretty good size ball of yarn to have left over, which tells me that I need to start knitting my socks with longer legs. I feel like when I knit my socks and then I wear them, I always kind of feel like I want that leg to be a little longer. But when you start knitting your socks, you kind of just want to get moving. And so you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm just going to put in the heel and call it a day and be done. But I really think that I need to give myself more time to knit a longer leg, because I mean, I think we all probably could, because I feel like we all have yarn like this left over after knitting socks, which kind of makes me think that if you are, depending on the size of your foot, obviously, you may not have this much yarn left over at all. But for, my size foot, which I'm a women's 8, I need to knit longer legs because this is a lot of leftover yarn. And self-striping, sock yarn, you can definitely do things with it. You can put it into scrappy projects, but it just seems like it's a little bit more difficult to imagine using it in something because of how like contrived the color changes are. I don't know. So anyway, that's what I have left over. Loving my socks. They haven't been blocked completely yet, but they're on my blockers just to show you. But I'm just happy that they're finished. Yeah, so a pair of socks down. Okay, I'm obviously going to be sharing with you the progress I've made on my Hollows Shawl by Melody Hoffman. Now, I am kind of working on this pretty faithfully. I haven't been working on much else besides those socks just because I wanted to get those finished. I have other projects going, as many of you know. But I really want to just get this finished, and I am on the last section of this shawl, and I'm loving it. I love it so much. So yeah, I mean, it's not a ton of progress since we last saw each other, but it is progress. I think last time we spoke, I didn't have this eyelet section right here. I think I had just finished this short row section, but now I have more eyelets. And it's just, it's coming along so beautifully. Like, look at how pretty that is. And this color, I'm telling you, this like, what are we calling this? Like a gray teal. It's like gray with like a tinge of teal in there. This is Fiber for the People yarn, my own hand-dyed yarn, and it is a 50% superwash merino, 50% cotton in the water colorway. Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? When I share these colors with you, please bear in mind my colorways don't repeat often unless there is a big demand. Then I'll bring them back for an update. I'll squeeze them in to an update collection. But my colorways at this point don't really repeat. So if you see something that you like, strike while the iron's hot. However, this one was really popular and I love it as well. So I'm sure I'll be squeezing this into update collections, you know, within the coming months, but I love it. I think it's just such a great neutral. Believe it or not, I really truly believe that this is a neutral. Like, look at this. I'm wearing this over the top of like a purpley mauved situation and it's beautiful. So anyway, this is my Hollows Shawl by Melody Hoffman, a fantastic pattern. I was not a shawl knitter before I started knitting this, and I am hooked. And I have thoroughly enjoyed this knit for lots of different reasons. I feel like there's enough of a change happening periodically to keep things interesting. However, it doesn't happen so frequently that it becomes tiresome. There are some sections like these eyelet sections that take a little bit longer, but they're satisfying to complete and you don't feel like it's a slog. It just takes a little bit more time. But then after you finish the eyelet sections, you have garter stitch and little garter ridges, and it's just a lot of fun. And then the short rows keep it really interesting. You can see those in here with those little sections of almost looking like waves of garter stitch. It's really just a lot of fun. And in a color like this, that's kind of like a neutral, you get the pizzazz of the stitch patterns and the short row sections with something really neutral and wearable. But yeah, no, I'm totally calling this color a neutral. I think it's the new like beige, not even beige. I think it's like the new mustard nut brown, which is a fantastic neutral as well. So loving this Hollows Shawl by Melody Hoffman. Oh, and I want to mention too, before I move on, that this calls for what would be 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn. This is my second skein of fingering weight yarn, and I just started. I would say that I have about 90 grams here, and there's no way that it's going to require all of this to complete what I have left. And so that means I will only have used 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn. So everybody's mileage may vary, so I'm not saying don't buy the 3 skeins, but I will say that if you are being frugal or you really just don't want to have any leftovers, there's a pretty good chance that you won't need all 3 skeins. I will keep you posted on that as I finish this, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now in terms of how much yarn I have used and how much yarn I'm predicting I'm going to have left. Okay, now when fall rolls around, October to be specific, the knitting community becomes abuzz with all the talk about the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, also known as Rhinebeck. Now this is a really big festival that draws people from all over the country for the sheep and wool, for the animals, and when it comes to the knitters and the knitting community and the crochet community, for the yarn. Now I know it's a big deal, and in the knitting community, I know it's kind of this place to like see and be seen, and I think that there's an appeal to that. And I know that folks are already talking about it now and getting really excited. I have gone back and forth about whether or not I will be attending Rhinebeck. In past years, it's always kind of one of those things that I'm like, should I go? Should I not go? What, you know, the expense of going, trying to find a place, and then wanting to take the family and have that expense make sense, and traveling all that far to go to a sheep and wool festival for a couple of days. It's just been one of those things that's always been kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. It sounds like it is a crazy crowded event, and I'm sure it is a fantastic time, and there's all sorts of things going on, and you can see people, and you can meet people, and that's great. However, I just have a hard time with it because it is very expensive for a family of 4, and I would want to go as an entire family. I don't really love the idea of, budgeting a trip like that just for me to fly to New York and then to drive 3 hours to Rhinebeck to go to a sheep and wool festival for a couple of days and then to come back home. It just doesn't, it's not something that has been in my, it's not pulled me enough to want to do it by myself. So it would have to be something I would want to do with my family. And yes, the Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool Festival is a family-friendly event, but my family and I, we kind of like to prioritize where we're going to be putting that budget for travel, and I just don't know if taking my family all the way across the country to a sheep and wool festival is something we really want to budget for. I don't know. It's not. And the reason I bring this up is because I have folks asking if I will be at Rhinebeck this year. And there was a period where I was thinking, yeah, I'm definitely going to go. This is the year. I don't know. It always comes around that time and I'm just like, I don't know if I really want to drop the cash to go do that. I don't know if I want to go bad enough. I'm not the type of person who wants to go put myself in a see and be seen situation all the time. It's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to do that, to budget that in, personally speaking. However, I have been wanting to find a local to me, regionally local, because we are knitters here in the West, and this part of the country is home to a big community of sheep and wool folks. Between shepherds and shepherdesses and ranchers, it's a big deal in the West. And as you know, if you watch my last video, the Basque culture here in Nevada alone has a very big sheep ranching history and background that is still very strong today. And so I always kind of feel like there's so much emphasis placed on this sheep and wool festival back east, which I think is fantastic. That and the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, I think that's great. But I really would love to find a way to shed a little bit more light on that culture in this part of the country. And it exists. And if you live over here in the West, it's something to look into because it's here and we should take advantage of the opportunity to be a part of that. And so while I was up in Northern Nevada and I was meeting with Megan from Lovely Valley Wool, she was talking to me a little bit about an event that or a festival, I should say, that she will be working in October. And it is called the Trailing of the Sheep Festival. Now, this is something that I had heard about previously and I had always been interested in being a part of. And there's something similar to this that takes place in Taos, New Mexico that I would absolutely love to be a part of this year as well. This one, however, takes place in the Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho area, which is one of my favorite places. It's absolutely beautiful. We would go to Sun Valley when I was a kid, and then we visited Ketchum a couple of times in the Sun Valley area, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And this event is one that is kind of a way to celebrate sheep ranching, the traditions, the culture, and the history as it relates to the West. And I think that that is so cool because as a community, I think we can really help to build up and bolster those small grassroots sheep ranches all over the country, but especially here in the West. And this festival celebrates all of that. It is from Tuesday, October 3rd to Sunday, October 8th. There are all kinds of events and activities going on, from spinning yarn to weaving lessons, about cooking with lamb in a farm-to-table context, raising sheep for their fleece, raising sheep for their meat, and all that goes into sheep ranching in general. It just looks like a ton of fun and a really amazing learning experience, and I absolutely want to be a part of it. So this is the Trailing of the Sheep Festival. It goes on from October 4th to 8th in Sun Valley, Ketchum, and Haley, Idaho. And I wanted to read this to you to give you a little bit of an idea, like a quick blurb about what the Trailing of the Sheep is. And then I encourage you to go to the website that I dropped down below in the description box so that you can read more about it. So this is going to be the 27th annual Trailing of the Sheep Festival. It says, our mission is to gather, celebrate, present, and preserve the history and cultures of sheep herding in Idaho and the West. Tickets are on sale now for this. I need to book my tickets. I need to book where we're going to stay. I need to jump on that because it is coming up. I think there's a countdown. Yeah, 2 months and 11 days away. You can sponsor a sheep. There's a whole video here that you can look into that shows the sheep parade. It just looks like a lot of fun and a beautiful place to spend, a few days in the fall. So I am really excited about that. I'm excited about being involved in something that celebrates sheep and wool here in the West. I think that it's awesome. If you have a chance to go to Rhinebeck, I think that's fantastic. I love watching the videos of folks that go to Rhinebeck. It's really cool. But being a person in the West and having that be quite an expense to get over there to go to a sheep and wool festival, I love the idea of being able to support that community and culture here in my neck of the woods. And so that is my plan. If you would like to learn more about it, definitely check it out. I'll link to it down below. I'm not affiliated with that event at all. I'm just very excited to learn more about it and to take part in it and have something really cool to do and share with my family in the fall that connects us a little bit more to those fleecy friends that make all of this possible. All right, folks, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. If you enjoyed this video or took anything away, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe and click that bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content here on the channel, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday. And now that I am back from vacation and on a normal schedule, I will see you for Wednesday's midweek ramble. Also, don't forget to check out woolneedleshands.com where you can pick up some fun merch to help support your favorite knitting channel on YouTube. Until we meet again, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.